Okay. Good morning. It's Stacy Berger here live with Jesse Szymanski from Modern Muse Media. Good morning, Jesse.
Stacy.
So glad to spend this time with you this morning and wanted to do these Facebook Lives this week for sure. We'll see if we continue it next week. But on this page on my YouTube channel, as a transformational life coach, I'm constantly giving tools and offering techniques and strategies on how to master our mindset so that we can really live lives that we love. And it's easy to hear those tools, but when we meet people and we hear people's stories, and Jesse's all about sharing story, that's her business, that's her passion. When we hear about people who've actually applied the tools into their lives and created that transformation, I think it makes it feel more real, that this isn't something that's for somebody else out there, that these tools absolutely work if you work them. And so today, Jesse and I are going to be talking about some of the tools that you've applied in your life, Jesse, over the last year. So maybe tell us a little bit first about where you were. You and I met, I think, first probably a couple of years ago at a networking event. We've had the privilege of working together for about a year now. So just tell us a little bit about where you were, some of the things that you were struggling with, and take us into what some of those results have been now.
Well, in about the fall of 2018, I got very, very sick. I had started my business in 2016, kind of eased my way out of a position that I had taken while getting the business started. And in that time, realizing that was not my path, that was not my journey. And so I started the company and kind of weaned off of that other role for another company. And in that time, I really came out the first year, which was 2017, with guns a-blazing, and had no idea what it was like to be an entrepreneur. I knew what I had a passion for. I had no idea how much I needed to learn all at the same time. And found myself in burnout in the fall of 2018, hospitalized with pneumonia and sick, basically laid out for about 4 to 5 weeks. And this is like, could not get out of bed, could not function. And it took me a few more months to reach out with you. I actually started to do some work on clearing trauma and with Corby Furrow and with emotional freedom techniques. And that kind of led into signing up to do the work with you. So I really feel like I cleared some of that space to be filled with some new tools and techniques and coping mechanisms, not only for my business, but in my personal life as well. So we began work together, and it was kind of funny because I know I called you a couple of months after we began, and I said, I'm not really feel like this is resonating with me. It's not really working. And you asked me, well, are you doing the work? And I wasn't coming on the calls or listening to them thereafter, printing out some of the hand sheets or worksheets rather, and really applying the skills. And boy, did I see a shift when I actually started to do that. So yeah, we've been working together for the last year, and things have really flourished for Modern Muse Media, but also for me personally. So I do have high anxiety, very, very high anxiety. And that I had allowed that to control my life and me for a long time. And working with you and also with Corby, giving credit there as well. Yeah. I developed an awesome tool set that I just don't go to that same level. That can be quite paralyzing, and yeah, so here we are.
Yeah. So you, Jesse, and I think you had a very similar pattern, and that lots of people have, and it's that real push, driver energy, right? It's that get it done, work harder, longer, faster.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, I would say, very, very common in Western culture specifically, but something that's been ingrained in us. Well, I just have to work harder. I just have to work longer. I just have to work faster. And that gets us so far, but eventually it does lead to the burnout, exhaustion. We reach our capacity where we can no longer put in any more hours. And so to shift from that push energy to what we call the allow energy,
Mm-hmm.
it would tell us a little bit about that, and what you notice even in your nervous system when you can still notice, because those old patterns are still there. And so it's really easy to go back to those default settings. Tell us about how that feels in your body and what you notice when you're in the push, that driver energy, that grind energy versus more that allowing attraction energy.
How does it feel? Well, I guess it all comes down to energy. So yes, I'm A type. I am get it done. I'm an extremely productive human being, and that does bring me joy in a lot of capacities. So I've had to talk to you about that as well. Is that there are positives. There are positives to that,
Yes.
but it's when you get into that mode of drive that comes from fear or desperation or loss. And that's what I was really attached to, is worried about losing my business and not being able to provide for my daughter. And when I got into that fear energy, how did that feel? I felt really nervous. I felt really shaky. I felt unclear in my mind. And how I can describe it is my anxiety got to the levels where I would be driving somewhere and that vibration went to a place where I actually had to pull the car over, and because I just didn't know which way to go, even though I knew where I was going. It was like how to get there, and in a very literal sense, but in also a very figurative sense. When you're aligned and you're in the flow, and I love to repeat this when we're in sessions and workshops with you, it feels easy. It feels like doors are opening. It feels like you're getting that right email or getting that right call, or the check is there in the mail when you get to the mailbox. It feels aligned. But the easy word was something that I had to really work with you on. And I repeat that. I repeat it. And repetition is something that is so important in this work, because that's what really shuts those old paradigms down. So what if you could be successful, and what if that could be easy? And that's something that was big for me, because, born, raised Roman Catholic Ukrainian girl on an acreage, work hard, do your chores, follow the rules, and the rules that have been set by your parents or your parents' parents that could potentially be very outdated or coming from their traumas.
Yeah, their own paradigms.
Their own paradigms. And so that's how it feels. Free. It feels like movement. It feels like I can breathe easier. It feels like I can make decisions better without that cloud or that chaos.
Yeah. And inside of that, there's still the work, there's still the effort, there's still the productivity. There's just more of that ease and flow and grace with it. So what would you say to somebody right now who is in that anxiety moment, and where maybe they're feeling paralyzed by fear, that indecision? What are some of the tools that have helped you really in those moments where you notice that fear rising up? What would you say to somebody who's in that moment right now?
The first thing that I do when the anxiety comes in is I breathe. Very, very important is breathing, and I ground. I feel my feet. I feel the toes wiggling on the ground. I focus on my feet and nothing else, to try and just clear the mind, and deep, deep, soothing breaths, and like consecutively 10 to 15 times, not one or two and then okay, keep going.
Yeah.
Right? To pause, just pause. The other thing is, we are all feeling a bit out of control right now. This has been decided for us. And we could easily move into what you say is living by default versus decision. It's scary. One of the first things that I thought of is, how am I going to pay my mortgage? And then the email came in and said, hey, you can skip the month. So I took action because that was in my control. So I logged into my mortgage portal, and I don't necessarily need it per se right now, but that was the fear. And the action that I could take was to simply push that button and say, skip this month.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was gone. Now I don't have to deal with that until the next time. So I think oftentimes when we think of action, it can be this big, overwhelming, I have to change everything in order to feel or see change. But there are things that we can do. There are little steps that we can take. What I'm seeing is this rise up of community. Our networking groups have shifted, almost all of them. I'm getting tons of emails to being online and virtual. We can still feel connected. We can still feel supported. Reach out. If you feel like you're drowning, there are so many people out here, myself included. I would be happy to chat with you, take a phone call. This was the one thing that was the big shift for me, the interruption of pattern. I left my sisters on Sunday and we went and had dinner with them and went sledding with them, because somewhere inside I thought, I knew that I might not see them for over a month. Mm-hmm. And we all sat around the television and we watched the news about schools being canceled. And my sister is a teacher, and the tears were just streaming. This was when I think it became very real for people. And on Monday morning, I woke up with that panic, that feeling. But with every moment that passed, seeing the emails come in and the community and people connecting and touching base, it really, really became clear for me that we are in this together. This is happening, and we are all in this together. So no one is dealing with this on their own. We might have different situations and different problems, but we are all in this together. And I repeat that to myself over and over and over again.
Yeah, so great, Jesse. And I love what you said about it's the pattern interrupt. And one of the biggest things that I teach, and one of the greatest tools that we have, is that noticing what we're noticing and paying attention to those thoughts, paying attention to the emotional response, paying attention to when you feel that panic rise. And the sooner you notice and you can interrupt that pattern, and so choosing a different thought, choosing a different action, choosing to move that energy through thoughts, through feelings, through actions, and to know that, yeah, this is happening. We don't get a choice about that. But what we do have a choice about is how we're going to interact, how we're going to show up. Mm-hmm. And I agree that the community that's coming together, I don't think just the recognition of how connected this planet is right now has never been more obvious, which is pretty exciting. And what I would say to anybody who's watching this who feels like they don't have a community, set an intention, set that vision for it, start looking for it. It exists. Mm-hmm. And you might have to leave your comfort zone a little bit and reach out to people. But like Jesse said, don't be afraid to do that. People are happy to support right now. And sometimes we just don't know other people are struggling. And so not to be afraid to put up your hand. Yeah.
I think what's important too is what you said about, we were talking earlier about, I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling actually really good. I'm feeling more connected with people than when we were just all busy and running around, that we're taking time to reach out and to say hey, to write that text, to answer that email, to do things that we've been putting off. But when you're feeling okay or feeling really great, there's often that guilt that can come with that. And that's something that I think is important to talk about as well, is that's a pattern interrupt I've had to do over this past few days. I see a lot of colleagues and group members of different organizations that I'm a part of really, really struggle, and my heart pours out to them, and there is a sadness. And I think it's important to talk about letting that flow, that just, it's okay to cry, it's okay to release. But really too, like we were saying, a lot of people that are maybe doing well, to not feel guilty about that, but to rather shine as an example or as a beacon
Yeah.
for those that need someone to connect with.
Yeah, I have had a few people say that to me over the last number of days, that I'm actually doing really well and I'm thriving and doors are opening for me. And I would say that that's a result of doing the work. That's a result of living intentionally, of living by design, not by default. And that the second part that has come with that is, and I feel guilty about it because I'm seeing all of these other people who are really suffering, who are really struggling. And so I'm kind of sitting here feeling guilty about my success or that I'm doing okay. And that's, again, to be able to recognize that guilt, because guilt is truly a useless emotion. So we see the guilt, we recognize the guilt, and the paradigm shift there, and the pattern interrupt, I think, is just like Jesse said, is to know that you can be that beacon for light, you can be that inspiration, you can be that rock for other people. And we absolutely have compassion. We're all facing different circumstances, so we can have compassion for other people and where they're at, but to see them and to know for them the potential, to see that them in their possibility, not in their struggle, and just to know that for them. And the more we can believe that for other people, it helps to really shore up their believing in themselves. So I would say the better you're doing is own that. And the more solid you are in owning that, you're really going to help to lift other people up that need that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. So just one final piece of advice or wisdom or mindset tool that you could offer to people right now. What do you think that one thing would be, that if, and like you said in the beginning, it's like, well, this isn't working for me, and it wasn't working because we weren't working it. And we call that self-help book or self-help books, right? The support. It's one thing to hear these ideas, but it's when you put them into practice and actually apply them, that's when they start working. So if you had to pick one thing, Jesse, out of your great big toolbox now that would really support people, what would that be?
I think the biggest thing that resonates with me about the teachings with Life Mastery is to live by decision and not by default. And I know we touched on that. But if we go back to last week, I had my daughter and school was canceled. And suddenly we were in this new world where I was to be teacher in some capacity, and chef and house cleaner and errand runner, and I'm still trying to run a business, and is there going to be any business coming, and that was the notice what I was noticing that came on pretty early on in the week. Mm-hmm. So for those that are at home juggling a lot more than you typically would, and I just, a huge shout out to our teachers. Yes. And I would say to the teachers for so long, all through Naomi's school, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. And now we're doing it. So that was my fault. But to just, what I really decided to do is to do one major work thing a day, one major teaching a day, one what I would consider not big task, but just one step forward on each of those levels, because now we're trying to juggle many different levels, but we're trying to do it all at the same time. And we don't need to turn up the volume on all of the levers, the buttons. So making a decision doesn't have to be monumental. And if I touched on it before, it could be reaching out to your financial institute. It could be reaching out to a friend or an acquaintance. You're going to feel that progress over perfection, which is something that you talk about. It's another thing that often plays in my mind. Progress over perfection. We don't have to get everything done all in one day. We don't have to know what the new normal looks like in this moment or in the next, but we can just take one little decision, one step at a time, and your power, you taking your power back and feeling like you're in control, living by your decision and not by this circumstantial default, will rise your energy level up. It will make you feel like you have the reins. And it can just be the smallest decision. It can be the decision to get up and make your bed. It can be the decision to get dressed. And that's progress. You're making progress.
Yeah.
And so just seeing those wins, which is exactly what you talk about, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Not making it so big and going into overwhelm, right? Love that. In your business, Jesse, you teach people on how to tell their story, how to get on social media. And I think, kudos to all of your clients who before now invested in your programs, because I think there's a lot of companies, a lot of organizations that are scrambling right now, wishing they were on social media, wishing they were had video, had those tools, because that's the platform right now. And so for the companies out there, for the organizations out there that wish that they had that platform, how do they connect to you to learn about what you have to offer? And so tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you. So yeah, at Modern Muse Media, we teach companies how to do video for social media. We have an amazing training program. It's a 30-hour, 12-module curriculum, and we've run it 27 times. What is also amazing about that is that seeing that we are a specialized technical training provider where we're actually teaching you how to shoot, how to edit, how to create content, and what your story is. We are also a certified trainer through the Canada Alberta Job Grant. So that means for our training programs, companies can apply for a grant that offsets our costs by 2/3. So even amidst this chaos, I just want to do a shout out to Cornerstone Counseling, do the application for the grant. And upon approval, we will begin Zoom training sessions with them. A lot of our clients out there, Fitset Ninja and Canada Mat, have continued their training through Zoom sessions. So they're moving forward with it, seeing this as a huge opportunity of time where they may not be focused on all of that day-to-day business because they've slowed down, to get this training in so that when things ramp up, they can hit the ground running with lots of video and video content for social media. So we've been moving forward. We are lucky that we have the capacity that we can do our sessions through platforms like this. And the practical skills, which will be the shooting and editing, we're going to look to finish off each of those programs in May or June, just depending on how things shake down. So we have been moving forward, and it's easy to get an application in. And I guess if any company is interested in working with us to learn how to create awesome content for social media, video content for your website, for YouTube's, for in-house training, that's exactly what we do. And the first step would be reach out, and I can help get the grant application in for you so that 2/3 of the cost is offset.
Yeah. And even without that grant, Jesse, the value is absolutely there. And so check out Modern Muse, and I'll tell you, I am so grateful. I have over 100 videos on YouTube, content that I've been releasing over the last probably 3 years. And I'm so grateful that I started 3 years ago, and I did it imperfectly and still do it imperfectly. But such a powerful medium, such a powerful way to reach people and really bring our message out into the world and really have that impact. So certainly encourage people to do that. I would also just want to briefly mention, if any of the tools that you're hearing from me or Jesse, and you're wondering, okay, I want to learn more about that. I want to learn how to apply that in my life. So you can really navigate this more from an intentional perspective and truly live a life you love, no matter what's going on in the world around you. I'm hosting an online vision workshop. Usually we do it in person. We brought it online next Saturday, April 4th. You can go to staceyberger.ca/vision workshop to register for that. And I know, Jesse, you've been to a couple of those. So what would you say to anybody who's considering attending that event?
Well, I would say that if this is your one decision that you make today, to sign up, because it has been life-changing. I have felt a level of peace through all of this panic, and I'm grateful for the tools. This is really, really powerful stuff. Really powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So glad to be with you, Jesse, and just sending you a great big virtual hug. And just congratulations on all of your success. And I just know this is just the beginning. And I look forward to what's yet to unfold. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.